Hello everybody, welcome to the Reality Whisperer Webcast. I'm really happy that everybody's joining me on this very special day after the eclipse. So that's going to be a lot of our topic tonight, is basically the eclipse, the effects that the eclipse brought, what's going to be laying ahead for our collective after the eclipse has now already shown itself. Of course, we have another eclipse coming 8 years from now. And of course, we're going to be looking more into the fourth wave. So this is all part of, again, a video that I did with Adronis a while back, and he was sharing perspective as it relates to the new children, basically hybrids that were coming together and really starting to bring themselves onto the planet. And so he's going to be talking a little bit more about that. So Adronis is going to be referring to both perspectives tonight about the day after the eclipse, and of course with the fourth wave as well. But again, I want to welcome everybody on the chat. Thank you for being here tonight. We are going to be taking some questions after we do some of the presentation tonight, so it'll probably only be about 20 minutes, half an hour for the presentation with Adronis. After that, I'll be going to the YouTube live chat, and if you guys do have any questions, I'd say just hold on to them until we get into the Q&A. That way it's less scrolling to the live chat for me. But basically, I'll just share a little bit about my perspective on the eclipse that took place yesterday. I did not actually personally see the eclipse. I was basically creating a sacred space inside my house, and I know that there's a lot of controversy that flows around the idea of the eclipse and saying, well, should we be outdoors? Should we be looking at the eclipse? Was there, any kind of dense energies or dark energies that were coming up, maybe supernatural phenomenon that was happening with the eclipse, etc. I'm sure every point of view itself is therefore valid. And I was basically giving the recommendation, so, well, it's good to have your own space, because when we're going into an eclipse, we're seeing an eclipsing of our light, eclipsing of our sun, and we're seeing this shadow being cast upon us. Now, basically, nighttime is the time for spirit. That's where spirit comes out. That's where it starts to play and interact in that way. And because it was an eclipse and that this happened, again, Pacific time on my end, pretty early in the morning, the natural equilibrium of the Earth is not naturally adjusted to that type of blackout period. And so it can be quite common for a lot of supernatural phenomena to come together. There's actually even talk in certain areas of the United States about lizard people coming out, or possibly even Sasquatch people or other particular forms of beings that we may not be able to commonly see. And there was a lot of talk about that. Basically, what I've shared with other people, and again, this is just my own point of view, was that I basically felt that going into this particular eclipse and feeling a lot of this energy being purged out from the Earth and coming to the surface, my recommendation was really just to be inside your space, create a sacred space, really just paying respects and love and appreciation, reverence, as it related to the solar eclipse. So I did not step outside my house. Everything was actually pretty much sealed shut. I had blinds, I had tape around certain things. I basically just didn't let as much light into the place as possible. So basically I just went into this meditative state and just emitted my entire love towards the planet. And I basically just didn't eat anything, I didn't drink anything. I kind of followed a lot of the ancient Indian traditions, which is what they would do, is that they would basically be inside their home. They did this not because they were afraid of the eclipse or anything of that nature. They did it because it was out of reverence, out of respect for this celestial event, giving their love to the earth, to the moon, to the sun, as it was all seen as sacred. And that was basically my experience of that. And I know a lot of people say, well, you know what, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to enjoy the eclipse. Go for it. It's all part of one's own perspective. I'm never here to tell anybody what to do, but I just shared my perspective in saying that there was going to be a lot of dense energies that are going to happen through this eclipse, because we're basically, going through this shadow reflection upon the Earth at this time, and it's kind of like looking into different circles, I guess you could say circles of dimension, in what we could refer to as netherworlds or underworlds or whatever you want to call it. But basically, a lot of this dense energy was being lifted from the Earth. I was certainly feeling it as soon as I woke up, and it was only just a short time before the eclipse was actually starting. I could feel like almost like this very thick air that was coming in, and I was just I had never felt anything like that before. It was really, really intense. And so I was just getting myself in preparation. I actually did a magic ritual as well too, which is known as the Lesser Banishment Ritual of the Pentagram. And so I was doing this particular magic ritual. After I did it, definitely felt really, really good because it was helping to elevate the environment, helping to elevate myself, because I was certainly feeling a lot of these dense energies coming together once the prelude to the eclipse was happening. And so that was primarily how I spent my morning, was just going into meditation and just blessing the earth, blessing the people upon the earth, blessing the moon, blessing the sun, and just going into that particular state of being. But again, a lot of people I've seen on Facebook were just popping out pictures of the eclipse. It looked absolutely beautiful, definitely. But what is this eclipse going to do? Like, what is it going to be? What is going to be the overall effect as it relates to its energy in regards to what it did? So that's what Adronis is going to be talking about tonight. And of course, he's going to be elaborating more on the fourth wave, or basically the third wave, phase 2. So if you guys haven't seen that video yet, you can go onto my channel. You just type in Adronis fourth wave, and you'll find that video. And again, a lot of fascinating information has come out of that. So I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to bring Adronis in, so I make sure that my camera isn't too overly bright here. So it's a weird thing. So my window is right behind us, and of course the sun will start to move, the transition. So if it gets dark on my video, that's basically the reason. Anyways, I will go ahead and bring him in, and we'll get started with tonight's broadcast. Then of course we're going to move on to Q&A afterwards, and if you guys do have questions either for myself or for Adronis, feel free to share in the chat. And thank you again, guys, for being here tonight, and we'll get started. Got my trusty printer behind me, so yes, excellent. Okay, here we go. Terra. Soul Star. Sirius. Adronis. We are here. At this time, we bid you greetings, and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I'm Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this broadcast being brought forward through your internet collective consciousness. We will speak as it relates to the topic of your total eclipse that took place the previous day of your time. The aspect of the solar eclipse has been and always will be that of a cleanser. It is basically reaching very, very deeply into your earth to extract the roots that represent the aspect of denseness, the aspect of tension, the idea of emotional levels, emotional layers, being able to pull that out of the earth and bring it together in the surface. Now, basically, when you're looking at your own emotional states, when you're looking at your own thought forms, when you interact together as a society, when you see people going to and fro different areas of your metropolises, towns, cities, etc. All of this energy is basically being sunken down deep into the earth. regardless of whatever this emotion is or whatever these thought streams represent, they are all being sunken down. Now basically this builds up over time to where there has been a great lack where nature itself is present, such as the large metropolis cities. And if there is very little nature in that area, then there is not enough particular, shall we say, absorbing of that particular nature that can therefore handle the load of this emotional thought form aspect. And so basically what happens is it gets grounded into the earth. Now basically you could almost look at the eclipse as a type of deep tissue massage for your planet. Is that it's really getting in there with the elbows, and it's actually being able to extract all of this dense energy from your planet. But basically it also goes into different dimensions, which means that there are other coherent dimensions that infuse appropriately around this time of alignment, and that these particular dimensions will also represent a cycle of clearing as well. And again, as Brad had stated, that these would represent like nether worlds, or basically other particular worlds to where there has been, shall we say, a shadow tendency, and that they bond together in different vibrational parameters with your own planet. So basically what happens during this time of the eclipse is that the dark star, that you could refer to it as in that way, is basically creating an energetic, creating a type of radiation that is actually extracting all of this dense energy from the surface of your planet, even into the deeper interiors, and bringing this to the surface. So think of it in the idea of a gardener that's going inside, again, if we're not looking into the massage analogy, basically going inside the soil of the garden and pulling out all the weeds. Pulling out all the weeds by their roots, going very, very deep, and making sure that all of these roots from their garden has been extracted. Those weeds that have now been pulled out are now laying down upon the surface, which means that it will be humanity's turn to start transmuting those energetic effects as a natural progression to bring that emotional state into a state of transcendence. So basically, as this is all coming up as built up energy stagnancy from the interiors of your planet, it's basically getting a lift. It's having the gardener come in, it's being able to pull out the weeds, it's having that deep tissue massage therapist using their elbows and extracting all of that denseness, all of that stagnancy out of the body, and being able to purge it, to transmute it from the body altogether. This will be a continuous, ongoing process, because the whole idea is really that prior to and after a total eclipse to what you have experienced, you will have events that will basically fall together in the categorization of synchronicity that will bring about these events in regards to a state of climax, or as it relates to the idea, a larger capacity for fruition. So basically in that sense, through elections or through wars that have come and gone, or through the idea of evolutionary transformations of your people, new scientific discoveries, new enhancements, new technologies, empires that have risen and fallen, these all represent significant components as it relates to your own events that have continuously transformed themselves based upon the approaching of and withdrawing of these total eclipses. Now, partial eclipses in that sense would represent a different basis as it relates to intensity. Nonetheless, they still perform the same type of task. But when you are looking into a total eclipse, where there is total darkness, where there is a total shadow pigmency in that way, then basically this is a much more, shall we say, thorough gardener. This is a much more thorough massage therapist, being able to go into the earth and extract a lot of this dense debris. So again, it will move to the surface. Now again, nature itself will do a lot of its part to help absorb a lot of this stagnant energy. And certain humans upon your planet will also do what they can to absorb and transmute much of this stagnant energy and bringing it back up into a state of harmony. But the whole idea really is that there is strength in numbers. So where there is more people that are allowing themselves to volunteer to help purge much of this energy from your Earth, you will notice strong, significant changes taking place upon your planet. This again is basically what has left a certain rippled scar across your planet as it represents a solar eclipse. Solar eclipse, again, is like performing a type of surgery, basically removing the stagnant gluten from within the Earth, from within different dimensions, from an emotional states, thought form states that are now being brought out entirely. And so the effect to this solar eclipse that has taken place is going to have significant changes, specifically within the region that it occupied, basically the ground zero area, where this solar eclipse presented itself. And again, that is throughout your country of the United States. Now, basically, you will notice that when you look into the history of these solar eclipses, going back several hundreds of years, you will understand that much of North America, South America, Central America, even areas in Africa, areas up in your northern areas of Canada, southern areas of Antarctica, have basically been blasted with these eclipse scars, we will say. What has basically been omitted through these past couple of centuries as it relates to your own eclipses has been Russia and China primarily, simply because they are on the appropriate track, which means that they really do not need to have the intervention of certain changes that need to take place. So basically, we would state that much of Russia, much of China, is basically the four leaders as it relates to the idea of the shift that's taking place upon your planet right now. Because the aspect of the bombardment of solar eclipse activity hasn't really even touched them. So this is giving you the idea that the eastern area of your planet is basically leading the way as it represents the transformational shift taking place upon your planet. That is not to say that others who have been bombarded by solar eclipses are not leading the way in certain ways, but those who are most adaptable to change are becoming those who are the natural leaders. So very much like the North American area, through Canada, through the United States, areas of Mexico, etc., and again, other areas that we've mentioned, are basically starting to develop these people who are now starting to transform themselves, who are becoming healers, who are becoming empowerment figures, who are helping to evolve a very asleep country that has been around for quite some time into states of new learning that is basically coming from the premise of much of your Eastern world. And so when you're looking at Russia, when you're looking at China, certainly they do have their own certain forms of situations that they are still resolving, but nothing that would require the idea of a complete change of everything. And that's what a solar eclipse does. It's basically taking the aspect of the construct of that collective consciousness within that particular region and turning it upside down. Basically like a patient that needs to go in from surgery. They have not been able to take care of their body, or their body is in a great deal of disarray, and so they need to have surgical procedures to making sure that their body is operating properly and being able to maintain those changes, as the surgeon will say, all right, we've made these changes, but you also have to apply this on a daily level. You need to continue to maintain and keep track of your body and being able to evolve yourself as it relates to these new life changes. Well, that's exactly what's happening to those who have been bombarded by the solar eclipse, is being able to flip the pan here, flip the switch, and move yourselves into a 180-degree transformational perspective. Basically, what this is going to do is further intensify the already strong nature of chaos within your areas of North America, to where there has been impact as it relates to these solar eclipses. Chaos is not really a negativity here. Chaos is the product of change. And so as chaos continues to further itself within the United States and again other areas that have been affected by previous solar eclipses. This is what's bringing about a great brew, like a boiling pot of change, simply because there has been so much suppression throughout the idea of governmental forces that have attempted to put a lid on so much of this transformation that it emits itself into a state of chaos. And that's what these solar eclipses are attempting to do, is basically create this surgical procedure so that there can be much more operations taking place to actually remove the lid of this pot and allowing this water to naturally boil without trying to contain it like a pressure cooker and feel all this energy just ready to burst the pot open. So this is primarily what's happening here, is that this particular surgical procedure that's cutting the tension of this stagnancy, of these emotions, of these energies, of thought bombardments, etc., are basically attempting to lift up the aspect of the chaos and bring it to a particular boiling point so that these foundations can no longer be these tightening lids upon the pot of water that is ready to spill over. So this is helping to actually create a further dissolving as it represents your own government states of suppression. Now, as we have stated, all of this change, all of this chaos in that sense, is all part of the idea of your intended transformation as a collective. So when you see all of this chaos happening upon the planet, this is quite a very promising sign, because this is showing you that change is becoming so explosive, so transformative, that those who have basically attempted to brace and suppress all of these actions created by the people are in frantic mode. And because they are so frantic, they will go to any particular extremes to preserve an empire that is inevitable to fall. This is no more different than looking at the Roman Empire or looking into the Sumerian Empire or any other particular empires that have fallen in your past. It is no more different. The whole difference really is that the people are taking back their power, which means after this empire falls, that relates to the idea of government suppression, of agencies, of shadow governments, etc., once that falls, they will never be recreated again. And that's where you're moving yourselves into. All of this has to be exposed. And that's, again, what this solar eclipse is doing. It's bringing all of this energy out into the surface. It's bringing great exposure. It's ripping everything out by its roots and saying, take a look at this. No, 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 no. I can't see that. That's too horrifying to look at. Doesn't matter. You're going to see it. Because that would represent the idea of what has been kept under your noses, kept under your eyeballs, kept under your feet for thousands and thousands of years. Large amounts of exposure, large amounts of disclosure. We're not just referring to extraterrestrials here, but we're referring to a great deal of, shall we say, negatively aspects of alignments, because there are some pretty unpleasant things that are looking to be resolved here, looking to be exposed firstly, and that you will be subject to that ugliness, to that feeling of hideousness that needs to be exposed, because truth itself cannot be buried. You can try and put it under the soil as much as you want and try and bury it and try and compact it as much as you want. No, nature will lift it up, which means that you are moving into a society that will have no more secrets. And because all of this is taking place, this is stirring the pot. So basically, those who have been the lid holders trying to suppress all of this information, that lid is going to burst. And again, between the span of 2017 and 2024, this is the span of change. This is why 2017, you had a total eclipse. April of 2024, you will have another eclipse. And again, that will stream itself across your United States area, primarily. Because there is a lot of digging up of old memories, of old thoughts, of old feelings, of old emotions that need to be brought into the open so that you can allow yourselves to transition into an evolutionary species that works together in the state of unity. You will discover that much of the suppression that is happening upon your planet has to do with specific proxy agencies that are, again, often created through bankers and other forms of cartel that are attempting to create these rogue proxy groups to actually instigate certain protests upon your area, specifically within the United States. Basically, they will fund these group areas and they will attempt to create a disconnection. They will get race against race, color against color, ethnicity against ethnicity, politics against politics, governments against governments, money against money, and they will try to stir the pot and basically say, oh, hey, if they feel that nonviolent resistance protest is their answer to things, we're going to contaminate that. We're going to buy off a lot of these rogue groups, and it will be racial supremacy. It will be about financial difficulty. It'll be about not trusting your politicians or not trusting your leaders or not trusting yourselves. It's all part and parcel of these clandestine forms of acts that are taking place, no longer being hidden in the shadows. In fact, it is becoming quite obvious that many of you are seeing these are all just proxy intentions. These are all just groups that are basically paying off other particular people to start a ruckus. And that this ruckus is going to try and create further separation from humanity from being able to evolve itself. And they will have their corporate media, they will have many of their paid off politicians, they will allow everything pertaining to greed that will try and breed this situation to get brother against brother, sister against sister, etc. But many of you are seeing through these escapades that they are doing, these enactments. And when you do, you basically shove it back in their face and saying, no, thank you. We're not going to play that game anymore. We are going to continue to come together as a group. We are going to speak out together in regards to what does not serve. We are going to bring a love tribe together. And we will show what is truly organic so that you can be able to differentiate between what is organic and what is artificial. Artificial will relate to violence. Artificial will relate to a means to an end, a feeling that there needs to be some type of ethnic problem, some type of financial problem, some type of false flag that is taking place. That is how you're able to tell them apart. So this is again something that is going to continue to escalate throughout the weeks, months, and yes, even years ahead, until humanity is able to see through the fog of illusion, realizing that it is not about all of you attempting to oppose each other, because that's just you repeating lessons again and again and again and again and again. It is the universe saying that when you unify, when you come together, when you show the love that you have for one another, that is what's going to bring about the greatest change upon your planet. That's what's going to cause the implosions of these imposed artificial systems based upon those who are so frantic in keeping the pillars of their empire intact. But this is basically the inevitability of the downfall of these empires. So this is what your solar eclipses are attempting to show many of you in this way. We will take one moment, please, as we will now just adjust the lighting as it pertains to this feed. One moment, please. Okay, yeah, I felt it was getting dark. Let me just take a moment here, guys, and we're going to get back into Adronis here in just a second, just so you guys can see me okay. Okay, there we go. That's a bit better. Let me bring them back in, and now we're going to be talking more about the fourth wave extended. Okay, here we go. We thank you, and we will now move on into the next topic relating to that of the fourth wave extended. Basically, again, as we've stated, pertaining to this great change that's taking place upon your planet is the next generation that's leading your way for humanity. And much of that will correlate to the idea of hybrid children. And that the hybrid children are now specifically being integrated into your society. This is much different in regards to what you would know as your 3 waves of volunteers, as a previous individual basically shared throughout their own research. The first wave, the second wave, the third wave, beginning within your post-atomic era, moving into what you would know as your millennial cycles. Now you can basically look into the post-millennial cycle that represents the 4th wave of volunteers, basically beginning within your early 2000s up until now. So within the early 2000s up until now, there has been a hybridization approach to where there is, yes, the human genetics, of course, but there have also been additions as it relates to the connections with other hybrid civilizations that are working together with you. These hybrid genetics can extend from the beings that you would know as the Zetans or the Greys. They can extend from what you would know as the Octurians, the Syrians, the Pleiadians, the Andromedans, the Lyrans, etc. Many other different types of races that have come together and participated in the next phase of the hybridization program, where the hybrids would now be introduced through natural birth of new children being brought upon your planet. And that these children, again, are much more extensive and advanced. They are basically on a level to where they are incapable of being corrupted. They would rather go through intense emotional states and go through these transformations of emotional energy than to ever cause any particular forms of problems or disassociations with the planet or its people. So again, this is why many of you may feel these millennials are quite strange. They don't act like that, like us. They have different tendencies in mind. Well, that's all part of this new programming that's taking place upon your planet. It is giving you extended avenues of possibility. It is giving you extended avenues as it relates to a way of life, as it relates to the acceptance of every man, woman, and child, regardless of ethnicity, religious background, development of educational factors, etc. Basically, what these new children are attempting to do is bring more of a heart-centered approach upon this planet, regardless of one's own choice to follow their life path. We know that there has been a very large uproar as it relates to transgenders or other particular forms of alternative lifestyles. It is true that there are those in that sense that simply want to do this to get attention. But there are those in that sense who simply remember so vividly the aspect of them being this opposite sex, and that they know that they have been now brought forward into this current genderized body. So they will therefore utilize the best of both worlds, possibly to portray that transgenderism in that way, but still showing love, showing appreciation. Again, this is all part and parcel of a new wave. In fact, when your own aspect of the gay pride movement started to come together, people started looking at them like they had 3 heads and feeling that how could people possibly integrate this into their society? Looking at it now in 2017, it's perfectly natural. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, it's now becoming much more accepted. Of course, there will be those who will still oppose it on certain ways, but the majority is already beginning to understand that this is part of the new wave. So whether it is transgenderism, whether it is, again, new aspects of lifestyles, whether it is new educational platforms, whether it is new concepts of being able to lay down the arms as it relates to opposition, as it relates to the idea of aggression and violence, that is where the 4th wave is coming together. They will become new transformational conduits that have learned from the pioneers of the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd waves. They will start to become newly elected people within your times ahead that will look into the idea of a natural governance, a people-powered state of organizational governance that will move your own kind ahead. by looking more into the idea of the states of equality, of working with nature, of developing technology that complements your nature, of developing yourselves past that of what you would know as monetary systems, and coming much more into contributional approaches, equivalent exchange. That represents the aspect of time, or represents the aspect of resource, or representing the aspect of contributing gifts, contributing love projects in exchange for other forms, be it clothing, be it shelter, be it food, or again, other arrangements taking place. But this is eventually what's evolving you past the idea of monetary exclusive exchange and coming more into different types of arbitrary exchanges that are much more complementary, so that no man, woman, and child upon your planet need have to go through this impoverishment, suffering, starvation, war. All of that is on the way out. And that's what these new children that are coming upon your planet relating to hybridization are going to start doing. They are going to rise themselves into adulthood where they will help to lead the way. So again, learning from everything that their previous generations have taught them, but being able to filter that approach out as well, realizing that they are now the future. They are now coming together, and they are now going to implant themselves into every particular type of arena, every avenue, every component of your culture, and change it. And this is moving you further into a fourth density concept. This is again why there may have been certain forms of degrees of disappropriation or disapproval with how the millennials themselves have acted. Again, it is very different. And again, we're not saying that some of them do have certain forms of self-image issues. That does take place. But as we've stated, they would rather embellish themselves in regards to the states of these stagnant emotions and affect themselves, rather than thinking that they are selling themselves out, harming the earth, harming other people, and creating that particular equilibrium where they will basically, quote unquote, go through these sacrificial states. So this is basically the new programming that's coming together with these hybrid millennials, or shall we say post-millennials, that represents that of the fourth wave. So again, much of the new children that are coming upon this planet are indeed that of what you would refer to as extraterrestrial souls, non-physical souls, angelic souls, etc. And yes, there are still ancient souls that are able to do a lot of work prior to them coming here, to being part of this new vibration in the violet ray that represents that of the fourth density Earth. As we've stated, you are fourth density compliant planet, and that there is a very strong filter that is around your Earth right now, occupying itself within the violet ray, with your own sun now moving spiritually into the violet ray, that will only allow spirits, other entities discarnated, to come upon this planet and incarnate in coherency with the violet ray spectrum. And this is again representing the idea of what you would know as high mastery. And that's what these new children represent. That is giving you an outlook of what humanity is going to become in these times ahead as it relates to the fourth wave, to these hybrid children that are coming upon your planet now, that will eventually introduce the other hybrid children not naturally born upon your planet, that will eventually be a part of your planet in the times ahead as well. We thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, and we now return to the conduit, and we will now allow your question and answer period to take place. Thank you again. One moment, please. Okay. Some great information there. So again, thank you everybody. We will go ahead and move into question and answer. So for those on the live chat, if you guys do have some questions relating to what was being shared here with Adronis or myself, then feel free to post. I'm just going to take a moment and go through the chat here. All right, yeah, just a lot of good conversation taking place here. Okay, so we have one here from B Stark. B Stark 2010 says, "Hi, Adronis and Brad. Can you please speak about the true cause of the recent ocean receding in Brazil with overflowing in Chile?" Okay, that's a good question. I actually did hear about that. So thank you, B. Stark. I will go ahead and just take a moment to bring Adronis in. And here we go. We thank you very much for your question. As it relates to the receding waters existing within your area of Chile and what this represents, yes, this is the means of what you would know as modification technology. Basically, technology that you would understand to be very similar as it relates to scalar or HARP weaponry in that way. And basically, much of these receding waters are all a means in that sense of attempting to create certain levels of drought that would eventually affect Brazil. However, there may be certain forms of interventional plans to basically stop this particular form of bombardment, simply because there are authorities that are being alerted within that area of South America that are becoming much more aware in regards to what is happening within Antarctica. And as a means, in that sense, for a lack of cooperation between these old powers and the governance existing within that area of the country, is that there has been, in that sense, a disagreement and a failed negotiation. And so basically, because certain plans have not been going ahead as they have wanted, they are basically utilizing this particular type of artificial weaponry to basically recede the waters and create certain levels of drought upon that area of Chile. But as we stated, there may be certain interventional forces that may come together to basically put an end to this technology, but it is all based upon the state of mutual cooperation to work together to allow this effect to therefore be remedied. That's what we can share as it relates to this current situation on your planet. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, B. Stark. I hope that made sense to you. Let me go down the list here. Luke just asks, when did the fourth wave start? Well, as Adronis stated, it was basically around the early 2000s, so there's no exact date around that time. So my estimation would probably be maybe 1999 to 2001, 2002, so around the early 2000s. So looking kind of in the phase between like around 1999 to 2005, I would say around that area. Okay. Question from Luciana Torres. What about the UFO over What about the UFO over Kansas at the time of the eclipse? Did it really happen? Who were they? Thank you. Okay. So I have heard about that as well too. On Facebook, there were some people posting about a UFO that was contained over Kansas. So I'll be one moment here as we look into that. We thank you very much for your question. As we scan the energies now, it is indeed true that there was a particular sighting there, but it is not what you would know as extraterrestrial. It is much more terrestrial based. These are, again, different forms of craft that have been engineered through your own governments. And so basically the idea and the result of the sightings itself was through the aspect of your own governmental craft in that sense. Basically a type of surveying or particular testing of this particular equipment during the convenience as it relates to this total eclipse and the idea of its own energy that was therefore conveyed. So this again was the result of a local terrestrial craft. We thank you. Okay. Sometimes we just have to kind of let things play out a little bit more before there can be more information that can be shared. So it's kind of like that there's a bit of breadcrumbs that come out, and as time passes and more events take place, then we can kind of see more of the big picture as it unfolds. So I'm pretty sure down the road we'll probably have some more answers as it relates to that situation. Okay. So, okay, here's one here from Micheline Rock. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. They ask, how exactly are we transmuting these dense energies? Will it affect our health? Well, basically, if we don't transmute them, then that's basically what's going to be affecting our health. Really, what it entails is being able to go into a high love vibrational state, into deep appreciation of self, appreciation of others, working with your environment. A lot of it can just be, going out in nature, hugging trees. As a matter of fact, it can just be planting gardens. It's basically creating a life field that is very expansive, with love vibration. So love, appreciation of self, love, appreciation of others, love, appreciation of the nature and the environment that surrounds you, and you're putting more of this love vibration into this energy, that's helping to transmute any particular form of stagnancy. What stagnancy basically requires is the aspect of lack. It's basically attempting to tell you, don't worry about this energy, just go on with other things and stop asking questions, just be obedient. Or just dive into this emotion and experience this emotion and involve yourself with this emotion and don't question anything else. When we go into the opposite vibration, we help to stimulate ourselves by going past these emotions that most of the time, a lot of these emotions we adopt. We bring them into ourselves. We make it a part of our character. We make it part of our identity. And so when we start working in a high love vibration, by working together in complement, looking into your strengths, looking into your attributes, feeling good about yourself, because even though a lot of people say, Brad, I'm going through a lot of this chaos, I don't know if I can, maintain a lot of this love vibration. It can't be true that all the years that you've been on this planet, you've gone nowhere but plain suffering every second that you exist. No. You have had joyous moments. You need to really bring that into the fold with yourself. You need to really recapture that energy and saying, what is it that I've been excited about? What is it that I really enjoyed as a child or in teenage years or adult years? What is it that I really see myself doing? What can I become? And encouraging yourself to follow that example. Now you're basically adjusting that life field to move more into a higher vibrational frequency. So it's basically what nature does best. Nature is all about the state of stillness, like looking at the trees. Even though externally they may feel like they're not moving or they're still, it must be a boring life as a tree. In actuality, what they're going from within is being these immense energetic towers of energy that are just producing this incredible natural aura that is absorbing all of this stagnant energy, a lot from what we are bringing in, and transmuting it into love, nature, energy. So we are basically seeing ourselves the same. We're becoming these pillars of loving energy and emitting this energy through our life fields and making this expansive by continuing to complement us, continuing to complement others, being there for others as we work upon ourselves, and moving past these emotional states, realizing they're not part of our identity, they're something we have adopted, and we're attempting to transmute themselves. So we no longer make them that part of our identity. So moving ourselves into transmuting these dense energies all relates to the idea of adopting love as deeply as possible into yourself. Okay? So if we don't do anything, that's what's going to affect our health. Again, emotions from 90 to 95%, the psychological aspects, the emotional aspects of ourselves, is what creates the idea of disorders, disease, discrepancies happening within our body. When we reverse that effect, then now we're getting incredible bouts of health. And I've seen this over and over and over again with a lot of the light circuitry attunements that I do on my website, realitywhisperer.com. Being able to work with people and see them transform. They've had 30 or 40 or 50 years of these intense emotional states, going through thousands and thousands of dollars of therapy and never being able to resolve it. They do one session with me with a light circuitry attunement, it's gone. And now over that span of 30 days, their entire reality starts to shift like a Rubik's Cube. And now they're moving into this new heightening of vibration, and life is so much different. So me just functioning as a guide, helping these clients that have worked with me to really just liberate themselves, because you guys do all the work. I'm just functioning as a guide for you to help you through the process. But being able to see that transformation unfold has been nothing short of miraculous. Okay, so we're going to move on. I'm just going to choose some questions here because it looks like we're getting quite a few questions here. Okay, here's one here from Spencer. Spencer McDonald asks, Adronis, if the event is the unveiling of the earth, which veils will be dropped in the event, what tasks will be necessary later on to conclude the transition into fourth density? Okay, very good question, Spencer. One moment. We thank you very much, Spencer, for your question. As it relates to the events that are quote-unquote concluding the aspect of third density and beginning fourth density, really nothing is being concluded. It is the idea of a continuation, but a continuation of a different design. So really what's happening right now is that everything that's happening upon your planet is symbiotically linked to everything else that's happening cosmically. So basically, through the idea of much of your coronal mass ejections that will be taking place upon your sun will be all part of appropriate synchronic alignments as it relates to the progress of your own culture. It is not just going to happen randomly in that particular way. Basically, it is going to be the culmination of a sequence of solar flares and coronal mass ejections that are going to bring you from one density into another. The sun is going to move you into the next density. That's how it's going to work. So basically, through that continuation of transformation that's occurring through your own planet, through yourselves, evolving yourselves, transforming yourselves, moving yourself into new love frequencies, the universe around you is going to coincide with the synchronic aspects to that degree, where you are moving more into that approach. Now, this is not to say that everybody upon your planet 100% is going to be smiles, is going to have that love vibration. No. This is why we say that there's only going to be a certain amount of you that are moving from third density to fourth density. Others are just too caught up into all of the shadows, into all of the emotions, into all of the identity aspects of this planet. And they have not given themselves permission to shift from one density to another because they are still tethered to the affairs of your planet that no matter what you can do, this is their choice. Just like nobody else can really control you, you can't do the same to other people. So basically, there is a continued elevation. When you're really looking into your own state of spiritual evolution and your own level, you will see how things will start to change within your reality. Different people coming into your life, different occupation that may be taking place, different arrangements of financial aspects, moving yourself past the idea of political agendas, moving past the idea of, shall we say, external influences that basically attempt to create filters about how you wish to live your life. Those are going to be extensions of transition, moving yourself into the aspect of a fourth density degree. Now, really, there is no one major component that will give you the impression about how fourth density is coming about, because you will all experience that differently. The only closest approximation we can give to that is through the sequence of solar flares that are going to be happening. So there will be more solar bombardment taking place upon your planet. As each of these happen, like an orchestra, you will notice transformations taking place. And it's really just important to pay attention to your own mental, emotional, and physical aspects during this time, and moving yourself into that continuation of transformation. Really take the time to check in with yourself. Really take the time to be in your own space and reflect in regards to what you're carrying. When you start to feel clear and crisp and ready to go, now pass that love on to everybody else. Pass that love on to your earth. Pass that planet, that energy on past your planet. And this is what's going to continue to elevate yourself, just like going up an elevator in a smooth transition, rather than feeling that you're trying to climb up these enormous steps where it takes so much out of you just to take a step forward. When that happens, take a break. When that happens, check in with yourself. When that happens, look into what is causing disarray within yourself. We have spoken to you about this a great deal, not just you personally, but to all of you, through the idea of media that has come through this channel. It's all about your mental, emotional, physical well-being. And that is going to equate into the aspect of your spiritual upliftment. There's nothing else for you to do. So, the more that you are able to be aware of how you're feeling, of being able to know when it's time to take a break, when it's time to relax, and not feel, but I have to do this, I have to do this. You can keep doing that until you collapse, until you basically say, I can't even move anymore, because you are basically working yourself until you are ready to have not a drop of energy left in you. And then you will faint. You will collapse. So rather than having that happen, put a pause on everything. Do not concern yourself with external obligations. You create the worry. You create the excessive behavior. You create the paranoia. You create the aggression. You create the fear of everything that you're putting forward in your life. Nobody else is doing it. It's all you. So you have to make a choice about understanding whose life this is. Are you living in somebody else's shoes? Are you putting someone else's face upon your own? Are you basically trying to beat the work drum to try and satisfy other people while you feel you are unnecessarily sacrificing yourself to that cause? You have to look into this very deeply. No one else here is going to do it for you, because it's your life. It's your universe. You're the only one here. So we want to remind all of you of that from what has been shared now for many years. And again, we hear many other different factors, but Adronis but Adronis can't do this, but Adronis this is happening, but Adronis that's taking place, etc., etc., etc. Again, it is quite inventive to hear the aspect of so much energy that is being put upon your own state of retaliation to evolve yourself, to love yourself. You are quite good at giving yourself every excuse in the book to disempower yourself. That takes so much energy to do. So why not reverse the flow here? Why not put so much of that energy, rather than discouraging and basically burying yourself, put it into something that serves you. See yourself as this infinite creator, because that's how we see all of you. So that's the reminder we want to give. And that's going to help you to move yourself into these transformations so that when fourth density does come along, it will be a seamless transition. Many of you won't even know that you're there. That's how seamless, how flawless it's going to be when it takes effect. So we thank you very much for your question. Okay, great. So we're going to take about 2 or 3 more questions, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Sorry, I just got jumped right down to the bottom of the chat here, so let me see here. Let's see here. Okay, well, this is kind of a political question, but I guess I will answer it because, again, there's a lot of questions on my channel as it relates to the political nature. And I'll take this question. Is Putin, Trump, or other presidents enlightened and really know what's going on with the ascension? No, not really. The whole idea is that many of them are working with certain levels of agendas. Basically looking into the idea of the Putin image or Putin identity in that way. He is aware of certain things. They are aware that certain things are taking place upon the planet. But a lot of them really are not subscribed to the idea of this dimensional shift. They just know things are going to change. It's basically written in different types of languages for them. A lot of the world leaders in that sense, again, it all depends upon who we're talking about, but a lot of them are still very much in the physical. And they're doing a lot of this as a means of trying to bring about physical change and physical transformation in that way. That's not to say that some of them don't have a spiritual side. But many of them are not really aware of this 5D aspect of fourth density. Many of them would consider just a bunch of New Age bullshit in that way. That's really just how they would see it. But basically they're seeing that these transformations and changes are taking place, and they're looking for physical resolve. They're looking for something in reality that is letting them know that things are going to start changing. And a lot of these political leaders, I'd say about 95% or more of them, aren't going to be moving into the shift either. So a lot of them are still basically staying in a third density threshold, but they're attempting to see physical changes, physical transformations taking place upon the planet. And that's basically what's being shared with me intuitively. Again, there may be a small percent that may, but it's more so that they're geared and they're focused in regards to the physical realm and the material plane rather than anything else beyond that. That's just their nature in regards to how they comprise themselves, because a lot of them come from these power elite organizations, these cabals, so to speak, in regards to feeling that the physical plane is all there is. And so even those that are working together in favor of humanity are still coming from a much more physicalized perspective as it relates to these particular changes. So each of them have their own roles in that sense, but it's a game. It's really looking at that these political leaders are following a game. You have basically the white knights, and you have the black knights, and you have the gray knights, and everybody's just kind of mixing in the middle. But they're all just playing a big orchestration of game, and there are certain groups that are invested in other sides, and the majority of the groups that are invested in the other sides are trying to work together to stop environmental destruction, to try and feed humanity, try and work together and bring back a stability. But they're again looking at that on a much more physical plane, material plane level. So that's what I can share about that. Okay, so we're going to take about 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So let me see. Okay, so it's kind of a semi-personal question here. I have from Paul Shelkov. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Paul asks, why does it seem that my physical freedom is dependent upon my level of vibration? Right now, I'm moving in the direction of being supported by my passions, but I'm not excited about this intermediary. Well, that's understandable. When I first started out, I basically thought this whole body was a burden, right? And saying, why are we doing this? Why don't we just go back into the pure energetic source in that way? Because really it is about being able to create that harmony between human and spirit, between human and soul, and being able to create that type of unity. And that your aspect of physical freedom is basically not quote-unquote dependent upon your vibration. It is your vibration, right? Everything relating to this is just a dancing of vibrational strings, a dancing of vibrational geometry, the holographic universe in that way, the quantum reality. So that is how reality works. And it was Nikola Tesla himself that said, if you truly want to understand the secrets of the universe, look into frequency, vibration, and energy. Right? That's how we are comprised. That's our nature. Physical reality is a technology. Okay, so everything that you're seeing right now is a technology. Right? Everything that would represent this universe is a technology. These human bodies are a technology. Nature around us is a technology. It is everything that has been engineered. It is everything that has been designed through ourselves. We are the ones that have manifested these technologies. It is only when you come back into that pure stillness of source that you actually understand that nature of isness, that you truly understand that that's your natural organic nature. When you go back to the soul, when you go back to the spirit, and you move past the aspect of a physical reality matrix, that you're going to understand more of the totality of your own organic, genuine, I guess you could say self, but more so connection with the aspect of the isness. So really when we're looking into physical reality, this is all part of a game that we have designed, interweaving together. It's like a group-based lucid dreaming experience, dream weaving in that way. So basically everything that's created through our reality are these components of different vibratory signatures. This is what Adronis refers to as the law of cohesion, rather than the aspect of the law of attraction, because we are attracting and we are repelling, and we are becoming more aware of the different intricacies as it relates to vibration, ones that don't even attract and repel, but actually remain neutral in that way. You have a neutral alignment as well too, as well as that which attracts and that which repels. So it does get a little bit complicated. I won't try and overcomplicate the question here. But basically, physical freedom is the product in regards to the mechanism of the architecture that represents frequency, vibration, and energy. That's how we work. And moving more into your passions and realizing that there is this go-between between physical reality and spiritual reality. Well, we basically decided to voluntarily come here because here's the soul's perspective. The soul looks at what happens on Earth. It's looking at itself as the Earth as a spectator. And it's saying, oh my God, this is the most exciting game I have ever seen. I haven't seen a game like this in all the other galaxies I've been to. I want to get in on that. I want to check this out. I want to be a part of the game. I want to go onto this planet. I want to incarnate into this body. And I'm going to bring love to the entire planet. That's how ambitious the soul is, right? So the soul starts doing the negotiations with the spirit guides, with the contractors of this planet say, yeah, I'm totally in for this volunteering game. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to change everything. Oh, okay, there you go. Poof. Now you're born. And now the character of this physical body emerges. And now it's saying, oh my God, what have I possibly gotten myself into? Well, basically what you've gotten yourself into was that the spirit was so ambitious, was so loving, was so determined to go down to earth and change everything. And that's basically what you are attempting to rediscover about yourself, is when you let go of all of these proxies, of all of these parameters, of all of these beliefs, of all of these contradictions, of all of these components of reality, and you come really into the heart of your natural self. You are in alignment with the soul in that natural vibration. And now you understand exactly why the soul wanted to come down here and change everything and just be this beacon of love, because that is your natural vibration. We strip everything away. Basically, if I was to come over to you, Paul, take you out of your body and show you everything, you would look at everything from a deep perspective, from a deep point of view, and you're basically looking at yourself from that spectator point of view, and actually just look at this world and saying, now with me not being involved with this world, I can see how passionate my soul was to wanting to come down here and change it. And that's, in order for that to happen, I need to be a player. I need to manifest a body. I need to come down to this world. I need to change this perspective that I'm seeing. Because as a spectator, I can't do shit. Right? So basically, this is where you get the idea to incarnate. You talk with the contractors, you talk with the guides. Okay, here you go. The game masters let me in. Poof. And it's just like a big, massive multiplayer online role-playing game, right? And we're coming in here and we're changing everything. But this physical body is part of the game. For us to come upon this planet and really just start to move past the gunk, move past the unnecessities, move past the distortions and illusions that we know do not represent ourselves. And we're coming into this light now and realizing, now I know why my soul was so excited, because I was able to pull myself out of my body and I was able to look at myself as a spectator. And as a spectator, I'm looking at this planet. Yeah, it really needs me to come down there and change it, because that's, again, the ambition of the soul. It's excited about a game. It doesn't care about the positive or negative. It wants to experience this, because it's kind of like looking at another friend playing a video game. You say, yeah, okay, it's boring as hell. But from the guy's perspective, he's in the controller, he's having a blast. Yeah, this is awesome, this is awesome, this is awesome. So you just basically decide to get out of that spectator format and come into the player format, and realize that when you strip everything away, you move back into the love vibration of your soul, and you then realize, this is what I needed to do. I needed to go past all these boxes. I needed to go past all of these boxes within boxes within boxes, to realize the joy of actually being here at this time, experiencing this challenging, having to be in a body, because it was all part of the interface that allowed me to discover the love that is truly within myself. And that's the ultimate adventure, the most beautiful thing possible. So I hope I was able to paint a picture of that in that way. Adronis told this a while back to a client, so I'm kind of paraphrasing it from how he put it. But anyways, thank you very much, guys. We're out of time for tonight. I want to thank everybody who has provided questions. Really great questions, by the way. I really appreciate it. And we will be back in 2 weeks' time, so just feel free to stay tuned to the YouTube channel of Reality Whisperer and keep informed. You can always follow me on Facebook as well, too. My Reality Whisperer page on Facebook, that's available. And, of course, you can go to realitywhisperer.com. Thank you very much, everybody. Much love to you all. Happy post-solar eclipse, and look forward to speaking to you all again very soon. Take care. Namaste, and may it be well with you. Goodbye.